Today I'm going to make spaghetti carbonara. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have a pot of water on the stove. It's got 6 quarts of water and 3 tablespoons of salt. And I know 3 tablespoons of salt sounds like a lot. And it is, but I had a chef once describe it to me as you want your pasta water to taste like the sea, like the ocean. It should have that much salt in it because there's no other way to impart the flavor onto the pasta. Also, spaghetti carbonara is a great dish to make if you have very little time. You have forgotten to take food out of, meat out of your freezer to cook for dinner that night. It takes very little time and it's a super, super tasty meal. So in my other pot over here, I'm going to put a cup of frozen peas. I'm going to put half a cup of water. Turn this on medium heat. Make sure it lights. I have 2 tablespoons of butter, a half a teaspoon of salt, and an eighth of a teaspoon of white pepper. You are free to use black pepper instead of white pepper. My children, if they see pepper, refuse to eat it, so I use white pepper when I'm making things like peas. If you do use black pepper, use twice as much. So here I used an eighth of white pepper. You use a quarter of a teaspoon of black pepper. White pepper is much stronger, and so you need to pull back and use less of it. So we're going to leave this warming up on medium just until the peas are cooked, and then we'll drain them. And we're waiting on our pasta water to boil. As soon as it starts to boil, we will add our spaghetti. So our peas are just cooked. You want them al dente. You don't want them to be mushy. Nobody likes mushy peas. Nobody likes mushy peas. So I'm going to turn the heat off, and then I'm just going to scoop them out. I'm trying to drain them as I go and put them in a bowl, and we will have those with our spaghetti. And our pasta water is starting to boil. As soon as I finish this, we're going to go straight to pasta. So I have a pound of spaghetti. I'm going to, so I like short spaghetti, which doesn't make any sense. I'm going to break it apart. If you choose to leave it whole, you can. If you want to break it, just make sure that you break towards the pot and not away from the pot. If you break towards yourself, pieces go flying. Of course, I should probably do half and not try to do that whole thing. So here we are. So, pound of spaghetti. And then I have 2 tablespoons of olive oil that we're going to add to the pot. And olive oil, just if you stir it in and mix that up with the pasta, what it's going to do is keep your pasta from sticking together. If you have ever made pasta and have a giant glob where it's all stuck together and you can't figure out where one piece ends and the other one begins, your water needed olive oil. Alright, so we're going to set our timer for 7 minutes. And we're going to come back to this. And in the meantime, we're going to make our sauce. So for our sauce, I'm going to have 4 whole eggs. I have 2 egg yolks. And these are all at room temperature. Or close to room temperature. You don't want a huge disparaging between the temperature of the eggs and the temperature of the pasta. If they were cold, that would be a problem. So I'm going to whisk them together. I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of onion powder, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, a half a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and a whole cup of Parmesan cheese. And that's grated Parmesan cheese. We're going to whisk all that together. Now, this is not a sauce that you cook on the stove. This is a sauce that's going to be heated by the heat from the cooked pasta. Okay. Okay. Now I'm also going to add, I have a 1/2 cup of grated Parmesan, Reggiano, and Asiago cheese. So I'm just going to add that real quick. And our pasta is almost done. There it is. Okay, so draining the pasta. I cooked my pasta in the colander. So I'm just going to pull it out, drain it a little. I need the pasta to be hot though, otherwise it won't cook the eggs. And if you don't have a colander inside your pasta pot, save at least a 1/2 cup of the water. You might need it. Not a guarantee, but you might. So I got the majority of the pasta out. You know, all we're going to do is stir in like this. And it's going to create this very luscious and creamy sauce, but without the cream, because we didn't use any heavy cream. It'll melt the cheese inside. And then if you see, it's a little loose, the sauce itself. So if you want, you can add some of the pasta water back in if you want a thicker or a creamier sauce. I like just a hint of the sauce, so I'm perfectly fine with it the way that it is. But like I said, if you like more of a tomato sauce, you know, like a sauce that you can see and feel free to add more of the pasta water and lighten up your sauce as much as you want. So this is done. Now the only thing we have left to do is add the peas and the bacon. So all I'm going to do is, remember those peas we made? We're going to stir them in. And then earlier, I made bacon. 10 slices of bacon. I made it in the microwave. You can make it in the stove, on the stove, in the oven. I think I've made it in the oven before. Anyway, 10 slices. We're going to dice it. And then I'm going to keep the bacon on the side. So when I portion it out, I can put the bacon on it. It'll stay crispy. If I put it in now, it's going to get kind of mushy. It also allows for a vegetarian version. So if you don't want bacon, you can put just the peas in the pasta and have a vegetarian meal that is perfectly healthy and tastes great.